looking for a source that fits quite neatly into an academic area, you might try these lists as well. For example, I'll take you for a moment into the politics and political science list, just kind of chosen at random. And you'll notice there are 36 databases listed under politics and political science, and each of them have their own description. Do read the description. So for example, if my paper is not about Arab-Israeli relations between 1917 and 1970, this is not the database for me. Similarly, let's see, how about if we go down to Current Digest of the Post-Soviet Press Online. This is probably only a useful database if I'm able to read Russian, for example, because apparently everything in it is it's translated into English, hooray. But if my paper is not about the post-Soviet era in Russia, I probably don't need this database. So again, you want to use your common sense, you want to be a flexible researcher, and read carefully whenever you're looking at a new database. So again, I've backed up here to just the Research Databases screen, and I'm going to search Academic Search Complete to find this database. You'll see it brings up this link, and I'll go ahead and click on this link. And for today's demonstration, I've chosen to work with Cody's paper. Cody is writing about steroids in baseball, and he's looking for a source related to how psychology plays into steroids in baseball. So let's see what happens when we type in those 3 keywords and press search. The search screen brings up a mere 7 results. And remember, I'm primarily interested in these research databases in finding a peer-reviewed scholarly source. Now look at this. Academic Search Complete has an entire search refiner just for that. So I'm going to click this little box, Academic Journal / peer reviewed, and click Update, which will maximize my odds of getting a scholarly source for my paper. And look what happened. All of a sudden, I only have 1 result. And look, I could click on this link, PDF full text, and I would be able to access this paper. Now this is not exactly what Cody was looking for as far as I know. He's not looking for college student perceptions of athletes who cheat, the role of performance in history, but I would encourage you to be a little bit flexible. Remember, good researchers are flexible. This still seems well within the boundaries of the research question. It's not an exact answer to the research question, but of course we're never going to find a source that exactly answers the research question. So I am going to take a minute to click on PDF full text and see what this article is really all about. You'll see my browser is downloading it. It's going to open in just a moment. And here it is. When you enter a research article, I want to talk briefly about what you would do once you get here. It can be a little overwhelming to approach an article of this length. You'll notice this one is 17 pages in length, and this is pretty dense prose. So one place that you might go immediately after you've evaluated the title is to evaluate the abstract section. These are usually short 1 or 2 paragraph sections early in the article, and they are designed for academics who are in a hurry to get the gist or the general summary of what the article is about. So if I were Cody, for example, I would spend some time reading this abstract so that I knew a little bit more about what was going on in this article, and I could make an informed decision about whether I wanted to spend the time to really start reading this article. Now let's say Cody has done that, and he thinks this article really has a lot of relevance. For example, I'm interested in this sentence for his research, that participants in this study revealed that they had more negative attitudes toward players with prior history of steroid use. That's pretty relevant to his research about steroid use in baseball. So how would I find that in this long article? Well, certainly you could start by reading the introduction, right? The first few pages will lay out the article. That's very useful. Another approach you can take is simply to look at the headers, right? To look at things like sports and cheating, prevalence of cheating, perceptions of others who cheat, and find a section that seems to make a lot of sense for your research. You'll see now that I'm actually scrolling to the bottom of the article because in many academic articles there's a section near the bottom called discussion that kind of wraps up and says how the analysis came out. And it really does the same sort of work that you're doing in your English 110 papers. Discussion sections are wonderful sections to find the kind of information that you're looking for and to start using the analysis techniques that we discuss in class. Now let's say I really liked this article and I wanted to save it for my research. I personally like to have a special folder on my computer where I can click File, Save As, and I can have a place just for my research project. For example, I'm saving here on my desktop, and I think I will make a new folder called My English 110 Research Project that will make sure that this article doesn't get lost. You'll also notice that the databases often assign random numbers in the name of your downloaded file. I'm going to name it a little more logically after the author's name, Joshua Feinberg, Feinberg Joshua, and college athletes cheat. That way I can remember when I look at the file name kind of what this article is about. And I'm also going to mark it article. Save, boom. Now before I leave this article, I'm going to go back to the database and I'm going to look for one more thing, which is I want to make sure that later on, when I'm ready to cite this source for my paper, it will be easy for me to make my works cited list. So a lot of my students like to keep what I call a dump list, a dump document, where they've simply opened a word processing file and they are keeping a running list of every source that they are considering for their paper. Now eventually some sources won't make the cut. It's a little bit like American Idol, right? As you examine some sources more closely, they're not going to seem as useful to you. But if you had this citation information already, you won't have to scramble to track it down later. And it's easiest to do it when you've got things like this that are telling you exactly where it came from. So I'm just going to go ahead and use my copy feature in my browser to copy that text about this baseball source and just paste it right into my dump document. I can worry about the formatting later, of course, but this is all the information that I'm going to need for my citation. So, now that I've taken care of that business, let's talk about what happens if you're not as lucky as Cody has been. You'll notice that on our first attempt in Academic Search Complete, we typed in these keywords and bam, we got exactly the article that we wanted. That's actually sort of unusual. In fact, I wouldn't even consider it ideal to have only one result to choose from. So what this says to me is that I've made my keywords too narrow. There's too many of them and they're too specific for me to get the results that I need. So I'm going to look at my three choices, steroids, baseball, psychology, and think about Cody's research question. And I think really any source about steroids and psychology could really help out his paper. So why don't I try searching those more general terms and see if I get better results this time. Oh, see, this time I have the opposite problem. The database has returned 1,009 results, and I don't know about you, but I don't have that kind of time or energy to wade through 1,009 results. So what I'm going to do is maybe I'll make it a little more specific with something like, let's see, steroids, psychology, sports, right? That's not as specific as baseball, but it's also smaller than just steroids and psychology. So let's see how I do when I hit this middle ground. Ah, look at that, 60 results, all from academic peer-reviewed journals. So now I have a good working total. I feel pretty confident that I can wade through 60 results, and really conveniently, Academic Search Complete tries to search these articles by relevance. So you'll see a little bar down here that tells you how relevant the article is. This one has very high relevancy. And then I can simply use the names and the keywords that are attached to decide if they're relevant to Cody's paper. So for example, a systematic review of diagnosis and medical treatment of mental illness in athletes. Well, this particular paper that Cody's writing is not really about mental illness, so I probably wouldn't spend time on this article. This one's about body image and female bodybuilders. That's not really what Cody's writing about either. This is the article that we found before in our more specific search, so we've already looked at that. And I would keep on going until I found an article on this list that I thought might have some relevance. For example, I'm interested in this article for Cody's research question, exploring the social image of anabolic steroid users through motivation, sportspersonship orientations, and aggression. This seems pretty close to his research question, and I would spend some time looking at this. So again, one of the things I would do is I would copy and paste this information into my research source dump document over here, and I would also try to download the full text of the article. In this case, they have the PDF full text. Now let's talk about examples where you find that they don't have the PDF full text right in this database. You'll notice this little Find It button. I want to highlight it for you at the bottom of each article. The Find It button does exactly what you think it does. It attempts to find this same article in one of the library's other research databases. So I'm going to go ahead and click Find It. And you'll see that the library system was able to locate the full text of this article in another database called the Electronic Journal Collection. Now I will warn you, sometimes you click on this link and it doesn't work. Okay, this time it worked, but sometimes it doesn't. So let's talk about how I might find this article in other ways if I hit that train wreck situation where this page tells me, sorry, just kidding, I can't find you the full text. Well, one way that I could go back and find it is to go back to my library homepage at library.osu.edu, and now that I have the information about where this source comes from, I can find it manually, right? I can try to find the Scandinavian Journal of Medicine and Science in Sports from April 2009. I know exactly the volume and issue number. I even know what page it's on. So I'm going to keep this window open. In a separate tab, I'm going to go to the online journals list by clicking here. And I'm going to see what happens when I just type in Scandinavian. Title begins with. And I'll double check the name, Scandinavian Journal of Medicine. There it is, okay? In the online journal list, apparently this is in two different databases. I could actually find it in the Electronic Journal Center, or I could find it in Sport Discus. So I could click into the EJC, as we call it, and I can keep referencing back to my database. I'm looking for 2009, volume 19, issue 2. Okay, right, I'm going to drive the water buffalo a little bit here. I'll cruise down to 2009, issue 2, there it is.